My name is Stu. Well, yes, you already know what the big news of today is. Turn on Fox or any other network, and it's constant coverage of people sobbing and praying and celebrating the life of Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom, who died yesterday after 70 years on the throne. That's the second longest verified reign of any monarch in history. For almost all Britons alive today, Elizabeth is the only monarch they've ever known. She was the last tangible link to the era of World War II and the great European empires that once ruled the globe. So, of course, there's been an outpouring of love for Elizabeth over the past 24 hours. It's nonstop. It's the constant news cycle. Nothing else matters. But does she deserve all of that? Well, first off, let's just say what's obvious about the country that she reigned over. It's absolutely indisputable that the Britain of today is worse off in every way than the country that she took over 70 years ago. Under Elizabeth's reign, abortion was legalized. Gay marriage, legalized. Gun rights, abolished. Christianity faded away or was outright suppressed. Globalization accelerated, and Britain spent 4 decades in submission to the European Union. Not to mention, Freemasonry and its byproducts completely flourished. Elizabeth's father, by the way, was Grand Master of the Scotland Grand Lodge. Did you know that? During Elizabeth's reign, Islamic terrorists terrorized the streets, and Pakistani rape gangs prowled Britain's largest cities. More generally, the people of England, Scotland, and Wales were steadily replaced by a horde of immigrants from India and Africa and the Caribbean and Eastern Europe. Sound familiar? But I suppose we should be fair. Britain is a constitutional monarchy, so Elizabeth didn't have total control over those policies. But what she did have a major influence over was the conduct of the royal family itself. So let's take an honest look at that. Of Elizabeth's 4 children, 3 of them were divorced, typically because of flagrant infidelity by both parties. One of those children, by the way, was Prince Andrew. You've probably heard about him in the news. He's the royal who was great friends with both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Prince Andrew brought those two and other sex predators like Harvey Weinstein right into the heart of the royal family. You can literally find photographs of Epstein and Maxwell seated in the exact same seat where the Queen was photographed at other times. Epstein victim Virginia Giuffre says that she was prostituted to Prince Andrew when she was just 17 years old, with Epstein paying her $15,000 to have sex with Prince Andrew. Andrew spent 3 days at Epstein's ranch in 2010 after he'd already been convicted as a sex trafficker. His excuse was that, it was just convenient. But Queen Elizabeth never did anything to punish or restrain her son. In fact, according to all the gossip, Prince Andrew was widely regarded as the Queen's favorite among her 4 children. So when he was palling around with rapists and procurers, Elizabeth ran damage control. Another of Elizabeth's son, the new King Charles III, was great friends with TV star Jimmy Savile. He would call him for public relations advice. Other members of the royal family would send him handwritten thank yous and Christmas cards. Fast forward to today, Savile is known as one of the worst child predators in history. All of this is Elizabeth's legacy, just as much as any speeches that she ever gave or any time that she spent as a British national symbol. She's a woman whose family was scandalous and whose country fell into terminal decline and decay while she nominally ruled it. And all of this is without even touching the unanswered questions about Princess Diana. Did she just die in an ordinary traffic crash? Or was she murdered, as so many people believe and have argued for decades? But even if that really was an accident, and even if all of the adjacency to child trafficking is inaccurate, which we don't believe that it is, why exactly are Americans supposed to love her so much? Our forefathers fought and died in a revolution in order to not have a monarchy. They died for the principle that nobody is simply born to a high station in life just because. Our reputation and our fortunes should be based on what we ourselves do. And we should get to choose our own leaders. Not to say that we do here. Maybe Elizabeth II was a great constitutional monarch. Good for her. But there shouldn't be any constitutional monarchs, period. All of us should be equal citizens of our country, not subjects of a monarch or serfs. Edward Saul is a Stu Peters Network investigative reporter who's been looking deeper into the pedophilia-stained royal family, and he joins us now with more. Edward?
Stu, this legacy that's being left behind by the lying media and, of course, this family of corruption, pedophiles, Satanism, it's not a legacy I'm going to remember, pass on to my family. I thank God every moment that I left that country with my family. The reason Elizabeth is remembered in this manner, Stu, is because she is but another wing of this denomination of the devil throughout the world. The elite that have brought forth the Great Reset, the elite that have covered up sex crimes and gaslit the public into loving them, adoring them, idolizing them, while they abused the weakest among us. Now, Stu, you mentioned the Epstein scandal. I look to the very oath that Queen Elizabeth took in the 1950s. Because look, it wasn't just the American people that she abused through enabling Jeffrey Epstein, but it was also the British people that she let down. I was a British citizen. I grew up in England. I'm an American now, and I'm also a citizen of the kingdom of God, not under this sovereign. But listen, she betrayed God in her very oath. She said to God that she would uphold the gospel in England. She also said she wouldn't enable any blackmailing, any destruction of property, killing of civilians. She was supposed to look after the public. The war in the Middle East, the wars of terrorism, all the things that we've learned about, of course. Many people don't know that one of the first perpetuators of this wasn't America with the petrodollar. It was the Crown through the Al-Yamaha weapons deal. Remember Mr. Khashoggi, the man who was brutally murdered in Istanbul? Well, it was his uncle, Adnan Khashoggi, working with the British royal family to sell all kinds of weapons to the Saudis. Now, of course, the Saudis, Jeffrey Epstein, every other pedophile, whether it be the BBC man Seville or Harvey Weinstein, the man who abused women in Hollywood, the thing they all have in common is that they followed a credo of sexual demonism. They wanted to rape the public like the elite have done for centuries. And as you noted, the best thing America did was revolt from the system. But then we let them back in. People will point at Queen Elizabeth, Stu, and say, well, it's not all her fault. Okay, well, what are we to blame of the person who was at the head of this dysfunctional Adams family? One that left MI6 Christopher Steele, remember the agent that planted this evidence against President Trump? I can go down the list of all the sins of Queen Elizabeth, but I'll tell you this, I am not going to spend a day grieving the death of the Queen of Sin.
Hope she found Jesus. Edward Saul, great work. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.